Chapter 5. A Letter for Raoul. That Wednesday, a letter also arrived for the young Vicomte de Chagny. He opened the letter, saw the name at the bottom, and smiled for the first time that day. Dear Raoul, of course I remember you. How could I forget you? Meet me on Thursday at 3 o'clock in the Tuileries Gardens. Don't be angry with me, Raoul, please. Christine Daae. Raoul put the letter carefully into his pocket. Angry? How could he be angry with an angel? On Thursday, he was in the Tuileries Gardens by 2 o'clock. At 3:10, he began to feel unhappy. At 3:30, he wanted to die, or to kill somebody. And then she came. She ran through the gardens to him, and in a second she was in his arms. "Oh, Christine," he said again and again. "Oh, Christine." They walked through the gardens together and talked for a long time. They remembered their happy weeks in Brittany 4 years ago. "But why did you go away, Christine?" Raoul asked. "Why didn't you write to me?" For a minute or two, Christine said nothing. Then she said slowly, "We were so young, you and I. I was just a poor singer from Norway, and you were the Vicomte de Chagny. I knew I could never be your wife. But I love you, Christine." "No, shh. Listen to me, Raoul, please. I went home to Norway, and a year later my father died. I was very unhappy. But I came back to France, to Paris. I worked and worked at my singing, because I wanted to be an opera singer. Not just a good singer, but the best opera singer in Paris." "And now you are," Raoul said. He smiled. "All Paris is at your feet." Christine turned her face away and said nothing. "Christine," Raoul said quietly, "I want to ask you a question. Who was the man in your dressing room on Tuesday night? Tell me, please." Christine stopped and stared at him. Her face went white. "What man?" she whispered. "There was no man in my dressing room on Tuesday night." Raoul put his hand on her arm. "I heard him," he said. "I listened outside the door and heard a man's voice. Who was he?" "Don't ask me, Raoul. There was a man's voice, yes, but there was no man in my room. It's true. Oh, Raoul, I'm so afraid. Sometimes I want to die." "Who is he? Tell me, Christine, please. I'm your friend. I can help you. Tell me his name." "I cannot tell you his name. It's a secret," whispered Christine. "I never see him. I only hear his voice. But he is everywhere. He sees everything, hears everything. That's why I didn't speak to you on Tuesday night. He is my music teacher, Raoul. He's a wonderful singer. I sang so well on Tuesday night because of him. I am famous because of him. He is my angel of music. and he says he loves me. How can I leave him? Chapter 6. La Carlotta sings Margarita. On Friday morning, La Carlotta had her breakfast in bed. She drank her coffee and opened her morning letters. One letter had no name on it. It was very short. You are ill. You cannot sing Margarita tonight. Stay at home and don't go to the opera house. Accidents can happen. Do you want to lose your voice forever? La Carlotta was very, very angry. She got out of bed at once and did not finish her breakfast. This is from Christine Daae's friends, she thought. They want her to sing again tonight. That Daae girl is going to be sorry for this. I, La Carlotta, I am the best opera singer in Paris. And nothing is going to stop me singing Margarita tonight. At 6 o'clock that evening, the dancers were in their dressing room. They talked and laughed and put on their red and black dresses for Faust. But Meg Giry was very quiet. "What's the matter, Meg?" Annie Sorelli asked. "It's the opera ghost," Meg said. "My mother says he's angry. She's afraid that something's going to happen tonight." "Oh, pooh," the girl with black hair said. "Who's afraid of an old ghost?" An hour later, Monsieur Armand and Monsieur Firmin went into box 5 and sat down. They were not afraid of ghosts. Of course not. There were no ghosts in the opera house. Then Monsieur Armand saw some flowers on the floor by the door of the box. "Firmin," he whispered, "did you put those flowers there?" Monsieur Firmin looked. "No, I didn't," he whispered back. "Did you?" "Of course not, you fool. Shh! The music's beginning." La Carlotta did not sing for the first hour. There were no strange voices in box 5, and the two directors began to feel happier. Then La Carlotta came out onto the stage, and Monsieur Firmin looked at Monsieur Armand. "Did you hear a voice just then?" he asked quietly. "No," Monsieur Armand said, but he looked behind him twice, then 3 times, and suddenly felt cold. La Carlotta sang and sang, and nothing happened. Then she began a beautiful love song. "My love begins to quack." Everybody stared. What was the matter with Carlotta's voice? What was that strange noise? Quack! Carlotta stopped and began the song again. "My love begins to quack. I cannot forget my quack." It was the noise of a toad. People began to talk and laugh. Monsieur Firmin put his head in his hands. Then he felt Monsieur Armand's hand on his arm. There was a voice in the box with them. A man's voice, laughing. Poor Carlotta tried again and again. "I cannot forget my quack." Then the two directors heard the voice again. Behind them, in front of them, everywhere. Her singing tonight is going to bring down the chandelier. The two directors looked up at the top of the opera house. Their faces were white. The famous chandelier, with its 1,000 lights, broke away from its ropes and crashed down onto the people below. That was a terrible night for the Paris Opera House. One woman was killed by the chandelier, and many people were hurt. The opera house closed for 2 weeks, and La Carlotta never sang again. Chapter 7. My Angel of Music. For a week, Raoul saw Christine every day. Some days, Christine was quiet and unhappy. Some days she laughed and sang. She never wanted to talk about the opera house, or her singing, or Raoul's love for her. Raoul was very afraid for her. Who, or what, was this strange teacher, this man's voice, her angel of music? Then, one day, there was no Christine. She was not at her home, not at the opera house, not at their meeting places. Raoul looked everywhere and asked everybody, where was Christine Daae? But nobody knew. 2 days before the opera house opened again, a letter arrived for Raoul. It was from Christine. Meet me in an hour at the top of the opera house, on the 10th floor. The 10th floor of the opera house was a dangerous place. There were hundreds of ropes going down to the stage below. It was a long, long way down. Raoul and Christine sat in a dark corner, and Raoul took Christine's hands. Her face was white and tired. Listen, Raoul, she said quietly. I'm going to tell you everything. But this is our last meeting. I can never see you again. No, Christine, Raoul cried. I love you, and we... Shh! Quietly. Perhaps he can hear us. He's everywhere in the opera house, Raoul. Who? What are you talking about, Christine? My angel of music. I couldn't meet you last Saturday because he came for me and took me away. I was in my dressing room in the opera house, and suddenly he was there in front of me. I saw the voice for the first time. He wore black evening clothes and a mask over his face. He took me through many secret doors and passages, down under the opera house. There is a lake down there, a big lake. The waters are black and cold. He took me across the lake in a boat to his house. He lives there, Raoul, in a house on the lake, under the opera house. Raoul stared at her. Was his beautiful Christine mad? Christine saw his face and said quickly, It's true, Raoul, it's true. And he is the Phantom of the Opera. But he's not a ghost. He's not an angel of music. He's a man. His name is Eric, and he loves me. He wants me to be his wife. No, Raoul, listen. There is more. He told me all this in his house, in a beautiful room. He said that no woman could ever love him because of his face. He was so unhappy. Then he took off his mask, and I saw his face. She began to cry, and Raoul put his arms around her. Oh, Raoul, he has the most terrible face. It is so ugly. I wanted to scream and run away, but where could I run to? He has the face of a dead man, Raoul, but he is not dead. He has no nose, just 2 black holes in his yellow face. And his eyes. Sometimes they are black holes. Sometimes they have a terrible red light. She put her face in her hands for a second. Then she said, I stayed in his house for 5 days. He was very good to me, and I felt sorry for him, Raoul. He wants me to love him, and I told him.
No, Christine, no. You're going to be my wife. Come away with me at once, today. You can't go back to him.
But I must, Christine said quietly. He knows about you, Raoul. He knows about us. He says he's going to kill you. I must go back to him.
Never, said Raoul. I love you, Christine, and I'm going to kill this Eric.
Eric.
The word whispered round the opera house. Raoul and Christine stared. What was that? Raoul said, afraid. Was that his voice? Where did it come from?
I'm afraid, Raoul, Christine whispered. I'm singing Margarita again on Saturday. What's going to happen?
This, Raoul said. After the opera on Saturday night, you and I are going away together. Come on, let's go down now. I don't like it up here. They went carefully along a dark passage to some stairs, then suddenly stopped. There was a man in front of them, a tall man in a long dark coat and a black hat. He turned and looked at them. No, not these stairs, he said. Go to the stairs at the front, and go quickly. Christine turned and ran. Raoul ran after her. Who was that man? He asked.
It's the Persian, Christine answered.
But who is he? What's his name? Why did he tell us to go to the front stairs?
Nobody knows his name. He's just the Persian. He's always in the opera house. I think he knows about Eric, but he never talks about him. Perhaps he saw Eric on those stairs and wanted to help us.
Hand in hand, they ran quickly down the stairs, through passages, then more stairs and more passages. At one of the little back doors to the opera house, they stopped. On Saturday night, then, after the opera, Raoul said, I'm going to take you away and marry you. Christine looked up into his face.
Yes, Raoul.
Then they kissed, there by the door of the opera house. Their first kiss.